Good morning. How are you? Hanging in there, right? There's something about, the full moon of Virgo and how it affects us mentally and then emotionally because of the ruling planets and the energies and the forces. And it's the process of purification. But you just wait. Let's see, today's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Tuesday, you're going to bounce back and feel more energized, and it'll be great. This morning, I'm talking about the fires of Agni Yoga. Actually, it is a very short talk because I wanted us to be able to assimilate everything that I'm saying. For the people that are listening to this on YouTube or are joyfully experiencing us through the webinar this morning, some of the language, some of the nomenclature may be unusual to you, but don't let that daunt you. And what I mean by that is don't listen with your concrete mind, because the concrete mind says, I have to find a place to put this, and it's like that old vinyl record, with all those grooves in it, and that's our brain. And as we hear words that we don't know, we try to put them somewhere, in the recording of our brain, and it's not there. And so it bounces off, and we think, I have no idea what she's talking about. So we want to lift our consciousness beyond, that concrete mind, that logical mind, into the light of intuition. And breathe just like we were doing in the meditation this morning. You're going to breathe in the energy and say, this is my future. This is the process of life of my soul, the life of my soul that started in ancient times. And now I'm learning about this process. Once I learn about the process, my soul life is going to accelerate. And in the process of acceleration comes illumination, comes expansion of consciousness, puts us in contact with the future, which means puts us in contact with the potential of our soul. When this happens, our future begins to affect and influence our present. It's so interesting. And I think you'll understand this more, particularly in the first part of the talk this morning. The future and how it relates to the soul and our monad, which is our divine spark, and where we're headed. We're not stuck here, or at least I don't want us to be stuck here, in this moment, in this minute, in this day, in this world. If we are, we're going to stagnate our soul. So as we listen to the news and the media, and we certainly, some of us have been paying attention to what's going on in Manhattan, and it happened last night, and Minnesota, and there's another place, I don't remember where it is, where all these tragic events are taking place. They're very real, and it's happening, but that's not our future. Okay, so let us not bury ourselves in the tragedy. We pray for the victims and their families, and we send them light and love, so they too know that they have a future. This is not defining what life is. and it's not defining the rest of their life. Okay. Let's start with this. This is a quote from Talks on Agni by Torgrim Serdarian. He says, the Agni Yoga teaching is the teaching of inner fire, the manifesting spark. So I'm going to read that again so you can write it down. And there is your definition, a definition of what Agni Yoga is. It is the teaching of the inner fire, our manifesting spark. So that tells us right away, Agni Yoga is not a physical yoga. It is not a Hatha Yoga. It is not the multitude of various themes on Hatha Yoga that is taking place, certainly in this country. It is not that. This is a yoga that goes way beyond Hatha Yoga. And just a little side note about Hatha Yoga and its variations these days. Don't fall into the trap of the allurement, of these variations of Hatha Yoga. If you do, you become more earthbound. And I guarantee you, this is not hypothetical or a possibility. It is a given. And all true streams of teaching tell us this, that Hatha Yoga was established as a cycle for humanity as it began to leave the involutionary path and begin the evolution of the soul. At that time, we had to anchor the soul into physical matter. That was so long ago, we can't even see anything in history about that time in history unless you read about geology and those famous major millions of cycles of time, like the Pleistocene and Pliocene and Eocene eras that go further and further and further and further back. So we're even out of the Pleistocene period now, but they don't have a name for it yet, geologically speaking. So if you want to release your soul from matter, consider Raja Yoga. And now Agni Yoga. Some of us are ready, some of us are not. Even if we're not, we're learning about Agni Yoga, which is a part of the process of the unfolding nature of our soul, as soon as we put it into that process. So, Agni Yoga stirs our inner fire and awakens our virtues, our dreams and visions. That's what happens when these inner fires are ignited and inflamed. All of a sudden, the future begins to dawn in our consciousness of what we can be and what this is all about, what the future is all about. The way it happens is not by going to a psychic or going to a healer or going to a priest or a rabbi or anything. It's going within. And when we go within, we're going to, it's just like taking our car and we're driving into the depths of the mysteries of life. And as we're driving through this mystery, we come through stations of virtues. And these virtues evoke dreams, and these dreams evoke visions. But if we're driving to the mall, isn't that great? If we're driving to the mall, all we are thinking about is our desires to attain this and that, and they put them in a closet or in our garage or whatever. And there's no awakening process there. Agni Yoga disciplines, the Agni Yoga disciplines ignite the fires within us. Now you might ask, what are those disciplines? If you go to, where do you go? We have so many different websites and Yahoo forums, White Mountain does. And I think it's the Living Ethics Yahoo forum. If you go into the forum itself, into the files, you're going to find where I posted several years ago a partial list of the disciplines of Agni Yoga. Perhaps I could share this, that the key discipline of Agni Yoga is controlling your thoughts. See, it's not running on a treadmill. It's disciplining your thoughts. So, Agni Yoga disciplines ignite the fire within us. That fire within us, the source of which is called the self, the capital S self. And it is that capital S self that is trying to manifest. Now, what do these fires do? These fires transmute, transform, and transfigure the whole of our nature and enable the way for a fuller expression of this capital S self, which we call our inner divinity. As human souls, we must advance. This is a key note. You can use it as a seed thought for your meditation. As a human soul, I must advance. If we become stuck in the quagmire of life, what is the quagmire of life? Jealousy, anger, hatred, revenge, malice. Did I say revenge? I think I did. It goes on and on and on. That we become so angry about our life and the lives of others and our victimization of life. See, we're not advancing. We are digressing. We are moving back into the caveman age, let's say, or even earlier. If you knew the geological periods, if you know about the Eocene period, which is, again, you can't read about the history of the Eocene period except through fossils and, you know, the earth and the rocks and so forth. So you're not going to learn anything about human nature, but you can learn about the beginning as you move from the, I don't know why I'm talking about the geological frame. It's just part of the download. Isn't that funny? Anyway, as you move from these earlier geological periods, as they start coming into the future, you can see what happens in the beginning of mankind. And anger was how they survived. The separation and division, divide and conquer was how they survived. But that's not where we are today. So we have come so far as a humanity that now the great ones have given us Agni Yoga, saying don't get stuck and don't fall back. Let's move ahead. To move ahead, we have to advance as a human soul. So you can't say, 30 years ago, I'm just like I was 30 years ago. Wow, isn't that great? No. Even if you've only advanced a half of an inch, you're still moving ahead. To enable our spark to advance, our soul, our monad to advance, we must eventually place ourselves on the path of probation. which is what I talked about last Sunday, and it is up now on YouTube. I suggest you go back and listen to that lecture so that this ties in to that lecture. A great sage, Master Moria, says, the way of formation of crystals and flowers indicates how perfection develops. So if you're a geologist, there we are. Now I know what we're talking about. If you're a geologist or if you're a gardener, you know about the formation of crystals. My former husband and I, he was a geologist, and we used to travel all over the country because he was interested in the formation of fossils and crystals. And he showed me how, like you take, what is it called? I'm so not prepared for this. Let's see, fluorite. Fluorite starts out as coal, and then it develops into this beautiful, beautiful purple crystal, and they're all squares. It's so incredible. If you go into the caves, which we used to do, and you find quartz crystals, and you can see them in the very beginning of the process to the really big sizes. And on the internet, you can probably have already seen in a couple of the caves in Mexico, there's quartzite crystals that go way above the size of this building. See? So Master Moria is saying the way of formation of crystals and flowers indicates how perfection develops. See, that image is so amazing. So Agni Yoga kindles our inner fires, our chakra system. Inner fires hyphen our chakra system. How is this done? Through a triple fire. The first thread of this triple fire is called electric fire. And this electric fire is resourced from the substance, this very refined substance of the intuitional plane. The intuitional plane corresponds to the central spiritual sun. We all know the three suns, the central spiritual sun, the heart of the sun, and the physical sun. So the central spiritual sun is the sun behind the sun behind the sun. And that's where electric fire is resourced, which is found in the intuitional plane of consciousness. Then we have the next thread of energy, and this next thread of the triple thread or triple fire is called solar fire. And this solar fire is resourced from the heart of the sun or the higher mental plane. And then the third thread of the triple fire is called fire by friction. And this corresponds to the physical sun, which is resourced from the karma of our physical, etheric, emotional, and lower mental bodies. Isn't that interesting? The karma of our physical, etheric, emotional, and lower mental bodies. Now, solar fire. Solar fire corresponds with our higher self, which dwells where? In the higher mental body. The divine spark labors to raise the consciousness of our three lower vehicles into the higher mental body. We could say that the higher self is to our human soul as our human soul is to our lesser lives. I could just take this and talk about it for an hour, and I'm not going to do it because I said this would be a short talk today, because I don't want to overload you. So let me go on. Most of us on this path are consciously on the path of perfection. Hey, that little crystal that's going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. To be on the path of perfection means we are striving to expand our consciousness. To expand our consciousness means we are kindling our inner fires. See how that works together? We can't just read a book about something new and say, wow, I am now enlightened. That's not what expansion of consciousness is about. Once these inner fires are ignited, they create more opportunities for our essence, our spark, our essence to manifest in expression, our life expression. Master Moria says, the labor of endless perfectionment, that's a word that spell checker doesn't understand. You know that little red line that goes up? And yeah, you have to say, add this to your dictionary. The labor of endless perfectionment is ordained by us, capital U-S. And in moments of difficulty, think about us, knowing that the wireless apparatus will not delay in connecting you with us. Wi-Fi. Wireless apparatus. But learn to think and to distinguish the moment of real difficulty. Going to this grocery store and them being out of toilet paper is not a real difficulty. So he says, learn to think and to distinguish the moment of real difficulty. Oftentimes people take good fortune for calamity and vice versa. Expansion of consciousness will affirm spirit knowledge, and this knowledge, he says, will lead to their community. He actually said our community. The community of hierarchy. Those on the path of Agni Yoga are striving to unite with higher and greater fires within their consciousness. The secret doctrine tells us that from amoeba to man, each received their monads. This is what the secret doctrine, which was given to Blavatsky by the great ones. From amoeba to man, each received their monads. This is really important to hear and to maybe notate. In which all the higher qualities are potential. And since each of us has this monad, each of us have the potential for these higher qualities. It is our responsibility and our opportunity to release our higher potential. If we do not expand our consciousness, what happens? The higher potentials or qualities still remain only a potential. Okay, so I mentioned that I mentioned three words: transmutation, transformation, and transfiguration. These are the three major expansions of consciousness that we go through. So this is what I'm going to spend the rest of my time talking about this morning. So we're going to start with transmutation. We know that transmutation is mostly concerned with the transference of force from the lower centers to the corresponding higher centers, these chakras, the lower chakras and the higher chakras, that are related to the physical etheric bodies. Now, as the substance of our lower centers refine and pass into a more radiatory state of existence, of manifestation, we say that we are now going through and walking on the path of transmutation. This is advancement. This is progress. So there's a lot of words here, but if you're thinking intuitively, you're going to see this is a process of change going on within our human constitution. And this takes place from one incarnation to the next, to the next, to the next. And with each incarnation, we go through a recapitulation period. So we recover what we attained or achieved 1, 2, or 3 lifetimes ago. And once we reach the pinnacle of that level of achievement, then we move on and continue on. Now, as this monadic fire, remember monad, okay, the highest potential, these qualities, as the monadic fire comes in contact with our personality, it causes this great process of not only transmutation, but also transformation. So something has to ignite this monad. We can't just sit here and it happens. We have to strive for it to occur. So transmutation is the result of the action of fire. We transmute our physical body through the fire of mind. We transmute our physical body through the fire of mind. How? Through the use of concentration. Like a magnifying glass concentrating the light of the sun upon an object. Concentration is the response of the person to what? The evolutionary process and to the magnetic pull of our solar angel. I know I'm throwing a lot at you. This is just a little bit. So stay with me. Concentrate. Transmutation leads us to the first major expansion of consciousness, in which our physical body and the life force are now under control of our human soul. On higher levels, this means that our personality force is now superseded by the energy, force versus energy, superseded by the energy of the solar angel. You know what this means? Think about this. Oh, it's so hard not to open this, next chapter and okay, let's talk about this. It'll come to you when you leave here this morning. Think about the contents of this lecture. Think about what it means when the personality force is superseded by the energy of your solar angel. First of all, it transmutes desire into aspiration. It transmutes desire into aspiration and aspiration into determination. This leads into the next major step, let's say, of consciousness, which is what? Transformation. This is how our physical body, transmutation, is how our physical body becomes energetic and charged with the fire to serve. Because of the transmutation process, now what happens, inertia and depression and laziness and apathy begin to disappear. Anger, hatred, jealousy, revenge disappear. Fear, greed, and vanity begin to disappear. This is something the common consciousness cannot understand. It cannot understand, for it is still rooted in past anger and hatreds and jealousies and fears. It's so interesting. I'll just tell this little story. One day I wrote the most beautiful, loving, compassionate, caring, positive, inspiring letter to this extremely negative person. And I knew in my heart this was going to change everything. I immediately got a response, because this is email time, got a response back from this person that I've never read anything so negative in my life. I know you mean this. I know you mean that. How could that be? And I went back and I read my letter again. And it was beautiful and it was inspiring. But see, a person that is buried in the past, all they could see is, she doesn't mean what she is writing here. So we have to understand reactions of people like that. It is through transmutation, this process, that our physical body, our emotional body, our mental mechanism begins to beautifully grow. When this is the case, our physical body begins to reflect tenderness. Our emotional body begins to reflect intuitive light, and the mental body reflects the light of the higher mind. You might ask, isn't intuitive, a finer substance than the higher mind? Remember that substance of the intuitive body is now just coming in with the process, actually, of transformation. So we're not expressing the substance of the intuitional mind yet. It is beginning the process of transformation. And the light of the higher mind is in actuality the light of the spiritual triad. Okay. When our body is purified to a certain degree through the transmutation process, our health increases, our energy and dynamism increases, and our body becomes more adaptable to the changing conditions of life. Our emotional body radiates joy and love and peace and no longer distorts intuitional flashes coming from the higher planes. As our mental body is transmuted, it becomes a clean mirror. As our mental body is transmuted, it becomes a clean mirror for higher visions and revelations, and develops an advanced power for creativity. So, creativity means something more, than what we, in our Webster Dictionary definition, understand what creativity really is. Oh, here's an example. There was an Indian, I think he's still alive. Indian, who is able to manifest things out of thin air. And one of the things he's famous for is something called vibhuti ash. And if we used to have some vibhuti ash, we ran out of it. It is a beautiful, sweet smelling, powdered ash. And we used to use it for different things like baptisms and ordination and membership and so forth. Remember that? And we put it on our hats. That is advanced power of creativity. The color of our mental body turns into a pure lemon yellow light, from the center of which radiates the 12 rays of the rainbow. This is all who we are, who we're going to be. Imagine. You know, artists paint renditions of some of the images that I'm talking about here. Now, I'm going to shift a little bit here, so stay with me. I'm going to talk a minute about the lotus, our chalice, our lotus, because this too is part of our nature, and it is affected by this transmutation and transformational process. When the fourth petal of our lotus, which is the first petal of the lotus. Okay, we have the knowledge petals, the love petals, the sacrificial petals. The knowledge petals are 1, 2, 3. The love petals are 4, 5, 6. So when the fourth petal or the first petal of the love petals begins to unfold, what happens now, we move into the transformational process. As the next two love petals unfold, the fifth and the sixth, the transformation and real integration of the personality vehicles take place, our physical, emotional, lower mental bodies. So kind of a summary of transmutation. Transmutation is the development and refinement of the atoms of our bodies. Okay, the second major expansion of consciousness is transformation. It is mostly concerned with the astral body, but not all. When the motion of the astral body, like chaos, when the motion of the astral body changes into the quality of rhythm, we say that the astral body, the emotional body, has been transformed. And it is now that the intuitional substance has taken the place of the astral substance. See how this is working? It is here that desire changes into aspiration. The desire of havingness becomes the aspiration toward beingness. So we switch from havingness to beingness. We cease to have the desire of accumulation and develop the aspiration to be. This is the quality of a disciple. And as the disciple progresses on this path, the energy of Buddhi comes into his light and her light and the source of their inspiration. The Buddhi light becomes the source of your inspiration. We are told that the transforming agent is our soul, capital S soul, dash solar angel, dash higher self. And the nature of the soul is what? What fire? Yes, solar fire, that's it. The transformation occurs when you open as a channel through advanced meditation. For this fire flows down from where? The potential given to the monad. Flows down from the monad, as stated in the secret doctrine. The human monad is the divine spark within us. It is what is real within us. It is sometimes referred to as the awareness unit. We must eventually come to an understanding that we are not the physical body, we are not the form, and we darn well know that these forms eventually die. So when the human monad or the divine spark, the real person does not die, but evolves and progresses, our consciousness is different. It's like I was watching this video this morning of this, oh my gosh, this German Shepherd that had been trained for war and had saved the life of the man that he was in charge of. And, in this case, the German Shepherd, they can only be in combat duty for a certain amount of time. And then they are retired, and then they're given, hopefully, to the fellow that trained him, and left the service. And so this beautiful German Shepherd died. And this whole video shows how they had this casket, and they draped this little casket with the American flag, and they put the shepherd in the casket. And then, they had this 3-gun ceremony. I mean, it was so magnificent. As these tears started going down, wait a minute, look at what this dog is going to move into in its next life. What a great opportunity this beautiful German Shepherd was given because of his service. So I still have to change that way of thinking, but I caught myself. We're human. We still get sad when people die because of our humanness, and that's okay. We need to remember the next step. Okay? We are told that at one time, human beings, according to the secret doctrine, had huge animal-like bodies, possessing no intellect. They were devoid of intelligence. They were the first human beings which were part of the first half of the third root race about 18 million years ago. And if you don't know about these, root races and so forth, read Cosmos and Man by Torquem Saradiri, and he goes into the details about it. It's very beautiful. It is only at the midpoint of the third root race that the human being is now endowed with manas, or mind, the spark of mind. And once united with manas, receives the monad. So transformation leads us to the second major expression or expansion of consciousness, and this is called the second initiation of the threshold. The second initiation of the threshold. Transformation of the astral body and of desire into aspiration leads us into transfiguration. On the path of transfiguration, we become a true initiate. Now, I am going to finish this short talk. The third major expansion of consciousness is transfiguration. The agent of transfiguration is the electric fire of the spiritual triad, which gradually pours down into the personality vehicles through the process of advanced meditation or contemplation. This light of the spiritual triad, which works through our higher mind, releases the lights of the atoms of the three bodies of the personality and produces enlightenment, that great experience called enlightenment or transfiguration. It is with this achievement that our astral body disappears with all of its glamours, and illusions of the mental body are washed away, and we finally stand in the light of the spiritual triad. This is future. Transfiguration means that our physical, etheric, emotional, and mental bodies become dynamically radioactive with the beauty of the capital S self. Some people call it spirit. We think transfiguration is very far away from us, but it isn't. We can achieve this state of consciousness through sacrifice, through dedication, through meditation, through love, and traveling the path of perfection. We all have the ability to transmute, transform, and transfigure ourselves so that eventually we will stand as living flames. Transfiguration is where physical, emotional, and mental nature, our physical, emotional, and mental natures, is purified to where we can see the vision of the purpose of the planetary life. And we can finally live a life of purity and beauty and harmlessness. As we travel this path of perfection, the inner fire, the divine spark, fuses with our vehicles, synthesizes them into a whole, and galvanizes them into the light. As we pass through this experience of transfiguration, this is the result of the release of fire. And this is what Agni Yoga is about. The practice of Agni Yoga is about. To fuse with this inner fire means to submit our personal, separative, ignorant will to the will of the inner essence. And I'm going to stop there.